Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome back to our watch club for HBO's The Last of Us. Dream about sheep ranches on the moon. Welcome back to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for HBO's The Last of Us, Episode 6, titled Kin, directed by Jasmila Zabanic. Special thanks, as always, to our partners at Crave and HBO for letting us watch this series in advance. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this episode, but not necessarily for the games. But even still, if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back faster than a fresh, hungry runner. Now, before we all hug our brothers, let me introduce you to my brother and fellow survivor. He's taller than a bloater, and he's certainly an Ellie toter. He's Justin, the Joel lovin' Lawrence.
Hello, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, buddy, doing good. Excited to talk about The Last of Us again this week. We got another fresh episode. We finally make it to Jackson. Justin, we see a lot of badass folks on horses. And I wanted to kick today's episode off and ask you, have you been on a horse before? Have you ever been on a horse?
No.
No?
I've never been on a horse.
Have you been near a horse?
No. Yeah, I think I've been near a horse, but I've never been on a horse.
Really?
I think I'm a tall person, so it's, being on a horse would make me that much taller. I'd be a little nervous, especially on a powerful beast like a horse hucking me over.
A horse might ride you. That's what would happen.
Maybe more like a Shimmer, whatever that pony was that they used in this episode.
Yeah, the baby horse. We'll talk about her. I actually rode when I was a kid. I started off riding ponies, and then eventually rode horses on our family farm. There's two different ways of riding. I rode English, not Western, though I'm pretty sure they're riding Western in this episode. But I remember a lot of those days brushing and feeding the ponies, and there was this one goat on the farm that would always just push right up against you, and you have to push it back, and that's how you sort of played with this goat. And I was like it was a dangerous goat. So my mom at the time, I'm an only child, and she barely would let me cross the street. I have no idea how she just let me loose on this this ranch with all these animals. It was quite a trip.
Yeah, no, that is quite a trip. I'm just trying to picture you on a horse.
What
does it mean to ride English? What does it mean to ride English? Is that your feet are off to the side and you're so
that my skirt is kind of covering my no. It's the way that you actually sit on the saddle and ride specifically. But I will say, every time I tell people that I had ponies when I was a kid, it always reminds me of that Seinfeld episode with the old lady. I had the pony.
My sister had a pony. my cousin had a pony.
My cousin.
What's wrong with that? Nothing. Actually, I truly hate anyone that had a pony. So I can relate to Jerry in that sense.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, before we duct tape our shoes back together, let's get to this week's episode. So this week, for kind of the first time, they sort of do a previously on, just to kind of get us, they make us watch that one moment one more time, showing us Henry's final moment. And then we cut to black and we fade into the next scene where we see 3 months have passed. The ground is covered in snow, and we see a man who we think could be Joel, at least I thought it was Joel, walking towards a cabin carrying some dead rabbits that he hunted. But once he gets inside, we realize it's not Joel. It's a man named Marlon who looks at his wife, Florence, who then looks over at Joel, who we see is holding her at gunpoint. He asks Marlon to lower his weapons, telling him he's looking for his brother, and asks him to point at a map to tell them where they are so they can get reoriented. Marlon asks about Cody, and Ellie tells him it's crawling with infected, and he says, anywhere people used to be, you can't go there, and says you must never go beyond the river. Ellie asks what's past the river, and Florence responds with death, and says if your brother is west of the river, he's gone. Joel grabs his map and they abruptly leave. Ellie steals a rabbit and Joel suffers a panic attack before pulling through and then lying about it to Ellie. So Justin, let's pause here. I just wanted to quickly talk about Marlon and Florence, probably my favorite couple on this show. And I know we had an amazing couple only a few episodes ago, and they're fantastic. They will always be fantastic. But Marlon and Florence, like, come on, they were awesome.
Yeah, they were charming. They were very, I guess, cute. It would be a word that you could use, but
sure.
I just love their personalities and the way they were, sort of laughing.
Yeah.
Both Joel and Ellie, like they don't get this shit.
Yeah,
they don't understand what they're getting themselves
why
into.
are they being so serious about the world?
Yeah, exactly. Like why? Yeah, exactly. Why are they being so serious in this situation? I totally got a lot of those vibes, and Florence was like very chilled, if you will.
She was so chill. She wouldn't stop rocking on that rocking chair the entire time. I love how he's like, you made him soup? She's like, yeah, it's cold out. Of course I made him soup.
They're still hospitable. Yeah. They're still welcoming. And I think they understood the situation that they were in. Immediately when you see Joel with Ellie, you get the father-daughter situation right off the bat. There's almost a sense of empathy that people will give to Joel because they see Ellie.
If Ellie wasn't there, and that would be a whole different situation.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be a whole different situation. So I think that Ellie was very much the key for them being able to handle that situation in a bit of a more professional way.
But I love their back and forth, like just like the way that like he's like,
did you tell him the truth?
Did you tell me the truth? And then like the way that he's they've been hiding there since Joel was like before Joel was born, and I love how Florence is like, I didn't want to. Like she still has to chime in, and he's like, and he just kind of shrugs her off. Why didn't you shoot him? Well, the gun's all the way over there. It's just so good. And then the best is when Ellie mentions the fireflies, and she's like, yeah, we get those in the summer. And then they're like, there's firefly people?
There's firefly people?
It's so good. I love them so much.
It was a nice comedic moment. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was still like it still had the seriousness of, the stakes of what we understand is going on. But, Marlon and Florence were definitely a nice welcome sort of appearance and attitude in this series. So I liked it.
Well, and especially when you consider that, like, I think there's a lot of situations where they could have walked into a very wrong situation, but they just happened to run into these two and had some soup. So Ellie says all they have to do is get to Tommy, all they have to do to get to Tommy is cross the river of death. So after some walking, Ellie mentions how she's starving and how she should have stolen 2 rabbits. Joel says they can get their own rabbits, and she gets really excited, and she's like, will you teach me how to hunt one? While taking a break, they sit at a fire, and Ellie asks Joel what he wants to do once all this is over. Joel mentions how he'd buy some land and run a farm raising sheep. Ellie says she wants to go to the moon, and how she talks about how she read in the library about Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Jim Lovell, but her favorite is Sally Ride. Sally fucking Ride. Sally Ride, who was the first American woman to go to space. She asked Joel if he thinks it would work, the vaccine. And she tells him that she tried to heal Sam with her blood. He says, Marlene says it'll work. If she says it'll work, it'll work. And Ellie asks him, if he wants first watch or second watch. And he says he'll take both. And Ellie decides to then go get some sleep. And he says, dream about sheep ranches on the moon. So Justin, what did you think about Joel and Ellie's aspirations for once the world goes back to normal?
It's cute. It's endearing. I think Joel is obviously just playing in to it, he's also thinking really rational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would he want from his own
farm?
life?
I love how Ellie's
Farm,
like, she's like, cool. Like, she's so sarcastic.
Yeah, exactly.
About it.
Some sheep.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
But I also think that it's nice that they both have something, or they could at least have thought of something that feel like aspirations, something to hold on to, hope. Yeah. In a world that is ridden with infectious, angry people, both human and infected. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's nice that there's a sense of aspiration and hope, especially when things look so dark.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how, I think this episode is another like push forward of the Joel and Ellie relationship, the father-daughter relationship, on both sides this time. And I love how we get another dad moment when he tells her to come down from the rock. Like, get down from there. You're going to break your neck. And it's just like, oh, Dad. And so...
those moments stand out so much more now.
Yeah.
Like, to your point, like, since you pointed it out in earlier episodes of, like, just the dad moments, and here it just feels so like, oh, there he is being a dad. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, even later in this episode when he has to, like, coerce her to be more polite, it's just like, it's very like, it feels like a dad, like, coming down on their daughter to be like, hey, have some respect here. So,
and I think this moment where they're sharing their aspirations, I think it's a huge testament to Neil Druckmann being so involved in the show, right? He knows these characters inside and out. So getting to hear about Ellie's longing to explore space, or Joel's dreams of farming sheep, which it really hits home for moments in part 2 that, again, if you know, I'm not going to necessarily go into detail there. But again, hearing Ellie reference our real world history with Sally Ride is awesome. And that is totally a badass astronaut name. And Justin, we also got an answer to last week. We kind of pondered the idea. Did Ellie actually think that her blood would save Sam? And she knew it was stupid, but she explains, like, she just wanted so desperately for it to work. And I again, it's that idea of hope that you brought up with the idea of these aspirations. And I think that moment and her having to sort of explain that to Joel, I think that's what started to seep into her mind of, like, this is going to work, right? Like, they are actually going to be able to make a vaccine out of my blood. My blood's not just nothing, as it turned out to be when she put it on Sam.
For sure. And I think that, like, that I totally agree with that. I think she's kind of reflecting on, is this going to work? Because it didn't work when I rubbed it on Sam, right? But I think we got that answer too, that, as someone who doesn't know much about the science of what happens, she instinctually thought that her blood was somehow going to help Sam, which you find endearing and very innocent. Again, one of those moments that reminds us that Ellie is still a kid.
Yeah.
But the idea that they're talking about their dreams and their aspirations, it just ties in with this whole idea of what their mission is, or what their adventure's on is hope. I know it's very Star Wars to say it, but it is, it's very much an adventure built around the hope of making things better. So it's a very insightful conversation that allows these characters, in more ways than one in this episode, to disarm each other and have very honest dialogue where they get to know each other a little bit more. So I think it's like one of many endearing moments that we see between these two characters.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I definitely feel that as well. So let's keep going here. Joel wakes up to find Ellie has already been up and that she took second watch. He gets pretty ticked at her, and she's like, well, that's what you taught me, so that's you taught me how. They cross the bridge over what they thought at the time was the River of Death. On the way, Ellie tries to learn how to whistle, which again is another little thing she does in the game as you're sort of walking around. They discuss dressing a kill, and Ellie says it should be called undressing. We get a great damn pun, and he's like, you're no Will Livingston, and she's like, yeah, no one could be. And Ellie asks if maybe the river they walk past the second time is the River of Death. And this gets Joel a little worried. He checks his map, and out of nowhere, a crew of folks with masks on, and cowboy hats, and they're on horseback. They surround them. and point their guns at them. They test them with a dog. We get this intense moment where we see Joel sees the dog walking towards Ellie. He almost has another one of those panic attacks, but then he looks back and he sees Ellie giggling and laughing as the dog is licking her face. Joel tells them he's just looking for his brother, and one of them stops and immediately asks what's his name. He tells them his name is Joel, and they ride back with them to the heavily protected city of Jackson, where we finally get to see Joel and Tommy reunited. So, Justin, it took us 6 episodes to get here, but we finally caught up with Tommy. What did you think of, seeing a fully realized Jackson here? And what did you think of this moment we've been waiting for since episode 1?
Well, seeing a fully realized Jackson is great. Given where we were, I believe, last episode with the opening and watching the resistance kill just the Fedra agents, and just how dark and dour. And I think I was talking last week about more or less the depiction of how like social structures have fallen apart. And what was refreshing about Jackson is that it seems like it's a community that's come together to help one another and rebuild what they can as a civil society. And I think that also ties in like with something like Frank. What he wanted to see for him and Bill is to open up the doors of their community to be a bit of a sanctuary, something that could contribute to rebuilding a sense of community and togetherness. So I think that, here we see a fully realized community that is embracing, a collectiveness to do right by each other and to help each other move forward. And I really love that.
It's like Ellie says, she says, it actually works. This place actually works. And it's funny because you think that she is talking about, the electricity but I think she is sort of referring more to what you're describing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And the idea of just what she's come from. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like she can see how broken the QZ is, and here it works. And I think that's entirely true. But like to finally see Joel and Tommy, like this was emotional. Yeah. Like I actually got a little teary, especially with just Pedro's delivery of, screaming Tommy and like just the sort of giddy excitement of going to see his brother. Like bravo to Pedro for taking that and playing it in such a real, honest way that didn't feel like super tacky, right? Like it felt very real.
Well, and I love when, like, hearing him shout Tommy and then they don't break eye contact until they hug. I thought that was great. I love that moment. And I love when Joel says he looks around. He's like, I came here to save you. It's like, clearly they're the ones that needed the saving. And yeah, Jackson looks perfect. Like the banquet hall looks perfect. The way it's lit, it's so warm. Honestly, this looks like the place that I'd want to be if the world went to this sort of way.
You'd want to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
Right? You'd want to be a part of this idea of helping to move society forward while dealing with the new situation. Like it doesn't seem like the QZ is all about that. No. Fedra's not about that. They're under a lock and key district. This resistance
breaking apart from the inside. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, literally,
they're crumbling. Yeah, exactly. They're crumbling from the inside. That's such a great analogy. So, to come to see Jackson, it's like, exactly as Ellie said, like this works.
And I think it brings up sort of the theme of this episode, which is hope. Which is the idea that, there is hope for this world, which I love. I love that. Tommy and Maria serve them a proper meal. As Joel tells Ellie she needs to mind her manners, Joel learns about Tommy and Maria's relationship, and I love the way he uses his asshole voice to congratulate them, like, congratulations. And then after a brief tour of the commune, Joel and Tommy leave to catch up, leaving Ellie and Maria together. Okay, before we go any further though, Justin, and I know we said no spoilers for folks who don't want to hear any spoilers for any of the parts of the games or part 1 or part 2, just skip ahead a couple minutes. Justin, that's Dina. The staring girl is Dina. It has to be.
Yeah. No, it 100% is. As soon as they cut to her and I looked at her and I was like, yo. I'm like, that's Dina. Yeah. Like that is 100% going to be Dina in season 2.
Played by Paulina Van Cleef. She's credited as Staring Girl on IMDb. And I don't know if she is going to necessarily be cast as Dina in the next season. Sometimes they can get away with, oh, that was just a one shot, and then they can recast her. It doesn't necessarily have to be her. I'd love it to be her. She looks like the perfect Dina if you look at pictures of this woman. And I love the idea that she at least knew of Ellie long ago, right? And so it's either her, or that might be Kat, who is like another girl that Ellie has a relationship with prior to the events of part 2. We read about it in her diary. But regardless, I think it's such a fantastic tease, especially now that we know that they'll be focusing on part 2 in the next season or couple seasons. But I don't know, man. I was just like, it's gotta be her.
It looked. I paused and I was like looking for those details of like the bracelet or just little things about like how the hair's pulled back and stuff like that. Like there's just so much. I gotta check
if she's wearing a bracelet now at this point.
Yeah, I couldn't
get close enough to the screen.
No, exactly. So like whether it's her, if they're planting it that early, good on them.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not her and they've just chosen this girl to be a staring girl, air quotes around her.
Right.
Like, okay, well you know, at least for the hardcore fans, they're gonna notice that.
I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I'm so excited to when this episode does come out and it's out, and I want to watch the new Rockstars just to see how much they freak out about it, and they're like, it is her, or like whatever. And also shout out to Shimmer. Shout out to Shimmer, another nod to the
Shimmer,
games.
Yes.
Dude, they're doing everything right. They're doing everything right for these fans.
They're planting the right elements in the right places.
Elements in the right places.
Elements. Yo, that's a Ellie pun if I've
Ellie
ever
pun
heard
right
one.
there.
Quite literally.
There we go. Jeez. Wow. Okay, well, listen, it sounds like we've already had a few drinks. Just like Joel and Tommy have a few drinks over at the Tipsy Bison. And Tommy tells, Joel lies to Tommy about Tess, as well as to why he's traveling with Ellie. He asks about the nearest group of Fireflies, and Tommy tells him they have a base down at the University of Eastern Colorado, about a week's ride south. Joel asks him to join, but he declines, letting Joel know that Maria's pregnant, saying he's scared to death, but he thinks he'll be a good dad. Joel responds with, I guess we'll have to find out. Tommy gets rightfully so, really upset here, and says, just because life stopped for you doesn't mean it has to stop for me. Joel tells him he'll grab his supplies and be out of his hair in the morning. He heads outside while experiencing another panic attack, and he sees a girl in the crowd who, from the back, looks exactly like Sarah. She got Sarah hair. Justin, I mentioned a couple weeks ago about how Sarah's death seems to have stopped Joel from ever carrying on, whereas for Tommy, it was motivation to do right in the world and to create a better life for himself. And now that he has, you can see just how upset Joel gets. What did you think of this moment between these two brothers?
Well, I think what's really revealing here is that I think getting away from Joel and the influence that Joel had on Tommy was more important to him. That made him better.
That's what Joel's upset
That's what
about.
he's getting away for. Exactly. Yeah. He's getting on with his life. I do think that you're right, though. I do think that there's a bit of envy. There's a bit of frustration to see that his baby brother doesn't need him. He's moving forward.
Yeah.
He can't count on him anymore. He's got his own life. He's kept himself off the radio, right? Which I thought was very telling. He's avoiding Joel, if anything. And Joel ended up finding him.
Yeah.
Not to say that he's not ungrateful for that, but he also just knows that Tommy has a new position. He has a new place. He has a new family, and that needs to be his North Star in this world.
Yeah.
Right. And because, he kind of throws it in Joel's face, which is, a bit of a dick move, but he has to understand at least Joel is broken. Right. And, you can't really come back from the loss of a kid. Right. And especially in the circumstances of how things happen. Right. So hasn't made him a better person. He's probably, as they've been alluding to, he's done some dirty things. He's done some bad things. And Tommy's been a part of that.
Yeah.
And I think that the reality is that Tommy needs to get away from Joel for him to have a better future. And that's what he's doing. And I think that's what angers Joel the most.
He knows it's true. He knows that what Tommy is saying is 100% true.
It's true.
And he's instantly reminded of it as soon as he leaves the bar. Right. And I think it's one of those things where, like, it's just interesting to see how quickly things turn around, because I think that's the same day. that's within the same couple of hours that they finally reunited. They share this big hug. You'd think that it would take at least a day for them to get to that place, but it doesn't. And
but they can't have pleasantries. Like,
right.
I think the other thing too is the fact that he lied.
Yeah,
he's hiding details because he's trying to get a read on Tommy.
Yeah,
he's trying to understand, like, where's Tommy actually sitting on this? It's been a while. Let me get a sense of understanding, what he's thinking, and basically he's sharing less but allowing Tommy to share more, so that he has the upper hand and understands where Tommy sits in this whole situation of Jackson and his relationship with Maria and who Maria is. It seems like Joel's trying to get information, so. He's still working that, kind of trafficking mentality, right? Like he's stuck in his old ways, right?
Yeah, this is his brother, and like he's not fully trusting him here.
He's on guard. Yeah, he's on guard.
And also shout out to the audio hint that this is Christmas time. The kids singing "Up on the Housetop." Click, 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 and I'm like, oh, it's Christmas time.
Click,
like
click.
Now, yeah, geez, I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's. I wanted to point that out. I thought they had some fun with some of those elements. And I love that it was Christmas, and I'm kind of wondering if this whole series might have been planned to come out towards the end of 2022, and they just missed it.
Oh, you think they meant to make this like a Christmas series?
Not a Christmas series, but like maybe a Christmas episode that, you know how when things come out, like most recently Mythic Quest, its seasons were released over the course of the winter, and it did land on Christmas, but a couple weeks before the Christmas break, they had a Christmas episode, so it kind of made sense. So I thought maybe there was that, but I think also just the idea of using Christmas as this sense of community and togetherness, and the idea that Christmas could still exist in a world where everything is so fucked up.
Bacon and Christmas trees,
is really great.
You got it all.
Yes, exactly. And bacon and Christmas trees, you got it all. I love that line. But I also really just want to shout out the acting in this scene, because Pedro Pascal with his reaction, Gabriel Luna as Tommy as well, like they had such a great performance, sort of acting ballet that they played off of each other. That was so great to see, that had the right amounts of emotion, right? So
absolutely, yeah. They have a couple of those this episode. But we'll get into it. Let's keep going here. After enjoying a nice shower, Ellie comes out of her bathroom to see some fresh clothes, as well as a reusable menstrual cup, which I love her response to that. She's just like, gross.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's like a bit of like gross and cool at the same time. She heads over to Maria's house, where she discovers the memorial that Tommy made. Maria is trimming Ellie's hair when she mentions Ellie mentions she's sorry about her kids, to which Maria responds with, kid. Just Kevin was hers. Sarah was Joel's daughter. Maria tells Ellie that there's a lot she doesn't know about Joel, and that the only people that can betray her are the ones she trusts. So, learning that Maria had a kid here, as well as her past as an attorney, what did you think of Maria, played by Rutina Wesley?
I think she was great. I think, she's another strong, confident woman that's featured in this series. We've had Tess, we've had Marlene, now we have Maria. Like and we even get a bit of that through Ellie as she goes on a journey of self-discovery through this adventure. I think it's just another character that shows a different side to this political situation that is obviously still a political situation. It's getting things back on track, and she seems to have a good understanding
she's done it.
of that. She's not she's
running that
she's
place.
An attorney general. But exactly. She's been an attorney general, which allows her to see the highs and lows of political systems, and then she's able to apply that in this collective community that is a communist nation by all standards. I love that.
Tommy was like not okay with hearing that out loud.
He was like wait a minute.
We are. But I also liked how there's that moment where she's like, and the old bank, we can use that as a jailhouse. Not that we've had any need for it. And I think that's really interesting as well. It's like, so they've been in this community for what sounds like quite some time, and things have been running smooth enough that they haven't had that much dissent.
But she's also saying that to them because it's like, if you get out of hand, I have no problem throwing your asses in there. Right?
Looking at Joel as she says it.
Well, because she alludes to in this conversation that she knows about Joel's past. And, even the revelation that Ellie has that, Joel had a daughter. Like, let's take that in for a moment. That was a pretty intense moment. It's crazy how Bella Ramsey is getting, her character is just becoming so performative that it's like no words. Like her face just said like, oh shit, that explains
and
it all.
It's
right?
It's like, one thing to, it's like Maria, like those motherly instincts in Maria to sort of understand, even without seeing her face, that this is something she just dropped on her.
She went.
And
she just went dead silent.
Yeah. And I think, that line about people, the only people that can betray her are the ones that she trusts. I think that's exactly what causes Ellie to be suspicious of Joel in this episode as we go through it. I think, Rutina is fantastic as Maria in this series. I think, like you said, she's super strong. She built this place from the ground up, or at least she was a part of it. And she's been in a lot of apocalyptic series. Like she's been in the miniseries DMZ with Rosario Dawson, and she's also on an episode of The Walking Dead. So apparently this is like a theme for her. And I also wanted to shout out our co-host Kevin. Kevin and Sarah both get a shout out on the same board. In this, Sarah is Kevin's wife. Not in the show. Our podcast, we have a host named Kevin. His wife is named Sarah. They're both very much alive.
I didn't even put those two together.
But I was just like, oh, whoa, okay, that's interesting.
I'm hoping when Kevin watches that episode, he'll listen to this episode and understand that we're talking about that moment where it was just like absolutely wild. But just for a moment, when you see that is the memorial. Like, I assumed Kevin was someone that was close to her, but when he saw Sarah, to your point of what you said before, carrying that sense of trauma, to have her name written on the chalkboard for Tommy, he looks at that every day, right? He sees that is his way of recognizing and remembering why he's doing this.
Yep, it's his motivation. All right, let's keep going here. Well, Ellie watches the 1977 American romantic comedy drama The Goodbye Girl, which I'm like, I got to watch that now. It looks pretty good. They're watching it in the theater, which, by the way, movie theaters, movie theaters, if you can survive past into the world of The Last of Us, you can survive what we're going on in real life here, okay? Please find a way. Even if it's a community movie theater, I don't care. I'll go to a drive-thru.
Well, to be fair, this is a guy with a gym hall with a projector and a case of DVDs. So let's not like factor in like, hey, keep the IMAX theaters open in your little community.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not go that far. But listen, Tommy sneaks out of the theater to find Joel attempting to repair his boots. He gifts him with a new pair and says he's sorry. He knows he's happy for him, and it's complicated for Joel. Joel tells Tommy the truth about Ellie's immunity, Tess's death, Ellie saving his life in Kansas City, the loss of Henry and Sam, and the promise that he made to get Ellie to the Fireflies. He tells him he experienced crippling fear earlier when they threatened them with the dog. He tells him how he dreams every night, and while he doesn't remember what he dreams about, he wakes up feeling he's lost something. He says he's failing in his sleep. He says he knows he's just going to get her killed, and he begs Tommy to take her to Colorado. Tommy, being just the best brother in the world here, agrees and says he'll take her out at dawn. So what did you think about Joel's breakdown and his request of Tommy?
This is part 2 of some of the best acting from Pedro Pascal.
My gosh.
It's going to keep going, but here, with Joel recognizing that he just doesn't have it in him to see this mission through. He is breaking down hard, and like this is more of a plea than a request, right? Like you said, you described it. He's begging him to do it, and like just the emotional portrayal that Pedro commits to here, and Gabriel just on the receiving end of that, and kind of like, again, it's crazy how the performances are so nuanced that things don't need to be said. It's looks, it's the way the eyes react, it's the way things happen when there's no voice, which I think is kind of like a sort of tongue-in-cheek way of thinking about the game and some of the elements of where you had to be really quiet and read the situation. So I don't know, this scene was so profound. It was really, really deep, and it seems like, again, part 2 of like this Onslaught acting performance. This is just great.
It was definitely peak acting from Pedro. I think it's a heartbreaking explanation of what's going on in his mind, and he's been remaining strong this entire time for Ellie, but then as soon as he's in front of his brother, he breaks down. He opens up about all these fears he's been having since episode 1, because his brother is the only person in the world that I think he feels like he can actually do that with. And I love the way that the scene starts, where he's getting frustrated that he can't fix his broken boot, and it's just another failure in that moment.
Something so small,
and it sets him off. And hearing him recount the experiences he had and how he feels, he's just been failing the entire time. When he says it's all he does, it's all I've ever done. I thought he said all I've ever done is failure, but then you listen to it really closely, and it's all I've ever done is fail her again and again. Fail her. Yeah. And at first I thought he said failure, but then when I listened to it the second time, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about Sarah in this moment. And, his heart feels like it stops, just like his watch has stopped. And I think the interesting thing about this scene is that Joel knows that his brother's going to say yes, right? Like, I think he was maybe a little surprised. I think part of what made him a little angry in the bar was that he was fully expecting Tommy to be on board in that moment, and because he knows him as a joiner, right? Something that he in previous episodes he would resent Tommy for
enlisting,
right? He's like, he's an idiot, he's a joiner. But here he's very much begging his brother to be that hero, to save him, to save the world, and to save Ellie. And it's just interesting to sort of see that juxtaposition of his feeling of Tommy being a joiner. Here he's kind of almost using it to his advantage, not in like a bad way, but just in a way that he's like, no, Tommy's going to do this for sure.
Again, time has passed, so I'm wondering if what really's playing out here is that, we're seeing that Joel is recognizing that Tommy is coming to his own, right? He is his own person. He doesn't need to be a joiner, and if anything, he's actually probably more of a leader in the case of what's going on in Jackson than he is a joiner. So I think that's really profound. But it makes sense though that he said fail her, and why there's such a trepidation and such a frustration, because in some ways Joel on this journey with Ellie, even though it's not Sarah, he is recognizing his own broken grief and trauma through the experience, right? Like the unresolved stuff, because he is protecting Ellie, right? Which in his mind is emotionally connected to Sarah. So it's like it's having this effect on him. So I think what he's really pleading with in this moment is just free me from this, this emotional baggage, because it's not that I can't necessarily get her across. It's just I don't know, have the will, and I don't think I have the bone power to do it, because emotionally I'm just weighed down by my failure of failing her. It's really crippling, right, to hear.
And I think he very much, he's not. I think he's scared. I think he doesn't want to sort of take on the chance that he's going to, as we said, fail her again.
Exactly.
And so he's just trying to, get Tommy to take over. But listen, before heading to his room for the night, he stops by where Ellie is staying, and she's reading a diary she found, and she asks Joel why he's still there. And we learn that she had heard that Joel wants Tommy to take her. She gets mad at him, saying, "I'm not her, And she tells him that Maria told her about Sarah, and he just says no. Don't say another word. Ellie says she's sorry about his daughter, but she's lost people too. And he tells her she has no idea what loss is. She tells him everybody she's ever cared for has either died or left her. Everybody except for him. And the truth is, if he leaves her with somebody else, she's just going to be more scared. He tells her she's not his daughter, and he sure as hell ain't her dad. And come dawn, they're going their separate ways. Back in Joel's room before turning out the lights, we see flashbacks of him and Sarah decorating a Christmas tree. So this moment is done differently than in the game, where the game made sort of a whole side mission where Ellie sort of runs away. What did you think of the way Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal performed this, I think, character-defining moment?
Oh, 100%. This is a character-defining moment. This is the most integral moment for Joel and Ellie as they bond over their grief and loss. Joel admittedly thinks Ellie has no understanding of what loss is, yet, she's there to remind her that her life has been filled with people dying or leaving her. All she has known is loss. It's just different. And I think that this allows the two to kind of talk out their grief and bond over that. And, when we see these flashbacks, I feel like Joel is recognizing that he needs to let go of that. He needs to understand that Sarah is Sarah and Ellie is someone else. I feel like this is like Joel's way of understanding that he can't continue just to mourn the past. He needs to do right by Sarah and help Ellie through this next leg of the journey to get to where she needs to get. Pedro Pascal, again, part 3 of this masterclass acting, and this time with Bella Ramsey. Character defining moment for the both of them. This was outstanding.
I think Joel very much, I think, also feels as though he's not sure if he deserves a second chance at this point. And so for him to say what he's saying here, I think you're right. I think he's sort of coming to that realization of like, no, you're not my daughter, and we're going to go our separate ways, and that's going to be okay. And he's kind of saying, maybe I don't deserve this. I'm just going to fail you. They did the scene justice, I think, for me. I'm a huge fan of the games. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are a huge fan of the games, and I think this is the moment in part 1 this is the moment. Like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think there's 2 moments in that game that are going to stick with you forever, and it's the loss of Sarah and it's this fight. And I think it's the best acting that Troy and Ashley do in that game. I think, to see it in live action, it's just as heavy. And the subtle changes to the dialogue were great. The way Joel just says no. Like in the games, he shouts Ellie. But here, he just says no. It's so quiet in that Pedro Pascal way. And it's so captivating. Dude, he puts on a freaking clinic in this episode. And, you notice his watch isn't broken in the scene where he's hanging up the decorations. Obviously, I just wanted to point that out for fun. But I read somewhere that both Pedro and Bella didn't play the game ahead of filming their scenes. And if that's true for this scene, that is nuts. Because this, watching them back to back, which I did, it's insane how accurate it is.
For sure. I also think, though, that a lot of the behind the scenes will help make sure that plays out that way. But, they're given the words on the page, right? It is kind of like that experiment, when I give you the same words that were from the game, how are you going to act this out? How are you going to play it? The nuanced performance from Pedro and his Joel, like you said, like it's not aggressive. It's, soft. It's more built in an emotional trauma that lies in his heart. You know what I mean? Like when he says no, you know what I mean? Like it's just, you could really feel like he doesn't want to go there. He does not want to go there. And it says everything versus, him shouting Ellie's name. So yeah, I think that the fact that it fits and it matches the scene, even though they didn't play the game before, I think that's just a really great celebration of how the writing really does translate into this medium and how these actors have just taken it in a direction that both feels similar and different at the same time.
And for me, I'm not going to put the scene from the game or this scene, they're not in competition with each other, but I will say watching this moment and then having it cut to the moment where Joel has those flashbacks and then just goes to bed, I think to me, it works a little bit better because in the game, you have to keep playing the game at that point. Basically what happens right at the end of that fight, before it continues, some raiders or whatever they are, some people hunting them, walk into the cabin that they're in. And I watched that scene back just recently before we recorded this, and I watched a playthrough of the game, basically, of because I haven't caught up to that part yet on my playthrough.
Right.
But literally right after that moment happens, he's like, shh, 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 and there's people that are in the house. And then you watch the game take place, and he's shooting people in the head. And at one point, the person that I watched threw a grenade that has knives or nails in it, and it just explodes bodies. And they're walking down the stairs, and he's like, "All right, it's all clear." And there's just like chunks of people dropping from the ceiling onto the ground. Like it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh man. Like in the game, it's just sort of that's where it sort of falls apart.
Yeah, but like again, that's why we have to remember.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to these adaptations, if it's a video game to a TV series, if it's a comic book to a movie, if it's a beloved book to a film franchise, these are adaptations. They're taking liberties. They're going to take things and make it different, right? And a game, what we're talking about here is a TV show versus a game. And then, of course, the game is going to pull you in with these great cinematics and these great moments and then spit you back out into gameplay only to pull you back in. It's a different experience. So here, what's really nice is we get to feel a little bit more of the character moments because that's what TV is about, right? Like that's what TV series are about, is to really spend more time with these characters and understand the layers to them. So yeah, I think that if you're comparing the video game to the TV series, it should really be for those instinctual moments that remind you of the game, right? Like the lone sniper from last week's episode. I'm like, oh, I remember that mission. That was a bitch of a mission to have to do. Yeah. So I like that versus going play by play, recreating the video game so that it really does feel like it is an exact adaptation of the video game.
And then every now and then we get to see the death of Perry getting ripped into two pieces. But I did think it was funny to see Ellie thinking it's stupid to keep a diary here. She does that in the game as well. But it's just kind of funny. But I like because eventually she does keep a diary.
No, but I like though what she comments on is what they're writing about.
Right.
Yeah. They're writing about what shirt goes with what skirt.
Yeah.
Which boy that she likes. Like, it's such trivial things in the world that she's living right now.
Because in Jackson, they have those comforts. They have the ability to think about those things.
But I'm also thinking though that,
or maybe it's because it was from that time in 2003,
exactly,
where the house was left.
That's why.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah. That's because it was a dated journal.
Yeah.
Right. So she found a piece of artifact and was looking back and like, this is what your life consisted of. I now have to flee and run and hide and survive and endure these fucking infected, and you had to worry about what boy was going to ask you to prom and what shirt went.
And when you got into a fight with your mom,
it just puts things into perspective. Yeah, exactly. It just puts things into perspective of the kind of childhood that Ellie has had versus this girl that albeit is probably dead.
Notice in the background of this room that Ellie's staying in, all I'm going to say, because I don't want to say anything else, but I'm just going to say it for those, if you know, there's a poster with a giraffe on it, which I thought was a nice little subtle touch. Ellie's ready to go, so Tommy takes her to the stables where they find Joel ready to steal a horse, and Joel tells Ellie she deserves a choice, and that he thinks she's better off with Tommy, but before he can say another word, she throws her bag at him and says, "Let's go." Like, basically saying, like, "Shut up, idiot. We're doing this together. Let's go." Joel gives Tommy a big hug, and Tommy gives him his rifle before they leave, and Joel and Ellie start their ride towards the university. After a hunting lesson, a conversation about how everyone loved contractors, and a lesson in football, after a 5-day ride, they make it to the university. This whole sequence before they get to the university felt really nice.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was Joel embracing the idea that he cares for Ellie like a daughter, right? She'll never be Sarah, but he's still able to embrace that. Yeah.
Exactly. He can look out for her. He can care for her. He can teach her right from wrong and make sure she's safe like she is a daughter. But I don't know. Like, I feel that way about my nephew. I feel that way about, my sister, right? Like these, it doesn't necessarily, I think what's conflicting is that he's lost his daughter, right? And he has to deal with that trauma. And I think that conversation was so revealing for the two of them that's why we got this nice pleasant moment between these two characters where they're sharing insight. They're having fun dialogue. I love the when she's trying when they're learning how to snipe.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then he's describing it. And he's like, are you going to shoot this thing? Or are you trying to get it pregnant? Right. Like, I just think, again, like she's so she's so smart. Bella Ramsey is so smart with her delivery and her performance on these lines. And yeah, I really enjoyed these. This is what I was really looking forward to. So I'm glad this episode was, more or less a Joel and Ellie centric episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how she, like, I love the reminders of just all the times that you're like, oh yeah, Ellie doesn't know what that is because she didn't grow up in a world with contractors. So for her to be like, sounds so cool. Yeah. Contract. Like, it's not a cool thing. But like even the subtle way that she sort of like hugs him after he says, well, everyone loved contractors. And I think she actually believed him in that moment that like, wow, like, whoa, he's someone that was really loved back in the real world.
He's doing the thing that she said, like, you could just tell me anything and I would have believed you, right? So
it's true.
Yeah, everyone loved contractors, right? I guess.
So good. All right, let's keep going here. So then Ellie learns about what her university is, that Joel wanted to be a singer when he was a kid, and she makes him promise to sing for her after she saves the world. They see some monkeys. Ellie's first time seeing a monkey, and they see a firefly mark on one of the signs before they ready themselves for a fight. They explore one of the buildings and find a packing list, which means there were fireflies there, but they just left. After a brief jump scare from more damned monkeys, they hear a group of men outside the window. They see a board that tells them they left, that the fireflies left for St. Mary's in Salt Lake City. They hear a group of men outside the window, and as they attempt to escape, one of them attacks Joel. He swings a bat at him and hits a tree instead and breaks the bat. Joel manages to apprehend him, choke him out, and then break his neck. But as he turns around, Ellie realizes he's been stabbed with the handle from the broken bat. They get on the horse and ride off as the other men chase after them. They manage to escape, but Joel falls off the horse, and Ellie says she can't do this without him. And that's the end of the episode. So a little different here than in the games. In the games, Joel gets impaled after a fall, but here he's impaled on purpose, also known as being stabbed. Justin, what did you think of the way they captured this chapter-ending moment from the game?
Well, I think, again, this is just another obvious example of how they are having liberties with the elements of the story to just make it more convenient for the story that they're telling in this TV series. Again, going back to what I was saying, comparing this video game to this series, like, in the moments that I appreciate where things do speak out to me and say, oh, that's from the game. I love those moments, but it's not overt. It's not in your face. It's, as you described it, if you know, yeah. Right. Versus the way people are kind of doing it online, where they're, juxtaposing moments and scenes from the movie to the game to really understand how they got things right and what was different and whatnot. I'm just like, can we not just embrace that this is different, right? That this is going its own way. And I'm actually really interested into seeing what's going to happen next from this moment. I know that there's a part of the game that might be a little bit more Ellie centric, if you will, or Ellie focused. So is that where we're heading next in the journey of this game? Is where Ellie is kind of taking the wheel and driving, if you will?
There's a character in the trailers that we know that hasn't shown up yet, and so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But no, this reminded me, when Joel's putting the gear on the horse, it reminds me of one of the best jump scares in part 2, and I'm not going to reveal where it is if you haven't played part 2. But basically, if you know, this was definitely intense, and I think the way he didn't even realize he'd been stabbed, like, that's pure adrenaline in that moment. But Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. If you're stabbed, you're not supposed to immediately remove the thing you've been stabbed with. Am I remembering this wrong from all the movies and shows where people get stabbed?
Well, usually from all the movies and shows, they do remove it. I don't know.
Like right away, though?
What you're watching. Yeah, I don't like it's probably better to get it out and apply pressure and try to think, but it depends on how far it goes through, I imagine. If it went all the way through, then I don't think you would want to. You need to sear, the end so that you could, stop the bleeding. But
you're giving me a great Joel explanation right now, Justin.
I know it's very long-winded. It's very dad explanated, but
you got to sear the outside and inside.
Yeah,
I don't know, just making it up as I go along.
What do they call it? It's like you burn the skin and then it heals the wound. Yeah, right in.
Let us know about how to deal with when you've been stabbed. But
clearly he's gonna bleed out. I agree.
Right.
He should have thought that through rather than
just
doing
immediately pulling it out. It's something that I'm like, I didn't. Again, he must have been in shock. Maybe he was in shock, like, get this thing out of me. But I would just think Joel would know kind of how to deal with that. I feel like he's been stabbed before. But I will say, shout out to the audio callback here with the end credits scene. I'm not sure who the artist is, but the song is Never Let Me Down Again by Depeche Mode, which is the song that we heard at the end of the first episode, except this is a soft piano cover version, a very beautiful version, and I was like trying my damnedest to find out who it was by. I tried doing the Siri, what song is this, and she wasn't helping me. But this is just another great sort of... Oh, hold on a second. Siri, stop. My Siri is going off because I mentioned her name. But I think this is just another great way that they can sort of stamp this almost as like an ending. Like it both moments sort of mark a massive change for our characters' journeys, right? It's kind of a pivot point. So I love that they're just like, okay, let's get Depeche Mode back in here, but because this is not a happy moment, or kind of like a spooky ooky moment, they're able to kind of give us this sort of piano cover. I thought it was great. All right, well, that is the end of the episode. Justin, I want to know, what are your overall thoughts and final score for this episode? I don't know why I went into this voice right now. Maybe I need to get back to Jackson. Yeah, Jackson. Exactly. Here we are in Jackson, and we're doing a podcast. That would be awesome if there was a podcast from within Jackson for some reason.
Well, it seems like they're closing off radio. They're very low.
Right, but that's how they've been able to stay. Even more reason to make a podcast, Justin. You and I need to make a podcast.
People will find them, though.
I'm sure. No, we'll hand them out on CD. We'll burn CDs. We'll only have so many of them. It'll be one season. Okay, Justin, what is your final score for this episode, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 sheep ranches on the moon?
Well, I really enjoyed this episode. We finally get a Joel and Ellie focused episode that feels deserving. You know, we've spent so much time watching these characters slowly meld together, and now it just feels like the amalgamation of that. But even before I get more in depth on that, I love that we finally get to meet up with Tommy. To see Tommy and Joel reconnect was great. I loved seeing the community of Jackson and how people have come together for the betterment of society. And in a world that feels like there's no hope, as you were mentioning, it's nice to see that there are some that are trying to build a sense of normality. And yeah, as I was mentioning, like Joel and Ellie, this is their episode. And I love the scene the two have where they're arguing, and it's almost like a venting session. You know, it was very therapeutic for them. Joel saying to Ellie, like just like in the game, you know, you don't know what loss is. But at the same time, we have Ellie there to remind Joel that she knows very much what loss is. Yeah. She has grown up in this world. She has lost people. They have left her. And if Joel was to leave her, she is just going to be so scared. So I loved this moment because it really does root itself in the characters bonding, more so than we've ever seen from any of the other episodes. And you have fantastic performances from Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, and Gabrielle Luna. I think that this is like one of the best episodes of the season thus far. And I am going to go big with it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5
Oh my gosh.
sheep ranches on the moon. I loved it, and my high score has everything to do with the outstanding performances from the entire cast. And you know, again, you mentioned it, and it's very much the last thought I will leave you with. This episode is a reminder of the journey that Joel and Ellie are on, and it's manifested in what you see in Jackson, and that is hope. That is the idea of what can be if people can work together, if they can achieve this goal of turning her blood into a vaccine that can help people. Like, it's just all about hope. And I know that's, again, very Star Wars, but yeah, I really enjoyed that theme felt very prevalent in this episode in all cases. So yeah, 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Sheep ranchers in the middle.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, we finally got the reunion of Joel and Tommy we've been waiting for. And while it did seem, I think, a little short-lived, you're right, Justin. The character exploration that it allowed for, especially with Joel, was great. Outstanding performances multiple times from Pedro Pascal. Bella Ramsey gave excellent moments here. And I think the way they streamlined the story, like this part of the story from the games, to sort of fit within the runtime of this episode was great. Like, they hit all the points they were supposed to hit. Maria was explored slightly more, the fact she had a son. I like how quickly and bluntly they let us know that she's about to have a kid with Tommy, because it sort of put us in the same spot that Joel was in, of like, whoa, that just
surprise.
That happened. Yeah. The set design was stellar. Fully realized Jackson was, as we said, fantastic. It looked so warm and just full of life. And for the first time ever since episode 1, it truly felt like somewhere safe for our main characters, which was nice. The cinematography in this episode was excellent. And, there's so many shots of them on horseback with the sun setting in the background, and it's silhouetted, or, sitting by a campfire. I just thought everything looked really, really, really beautiful. And again, shout out to Marlon and Florence for just being so chill, so awesome. I love them so much. I wish they could come back. I don't think they ever will, but I love them a lot. Overall, this episode was great. It was a solid 4 out of 5 sheep ranches on the moon. Really, really good stuff. All right, well, that is it for this week's episode of Watch Club for HBO's The Last of Us. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, listen, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, listen, I'm gonna send a dog over to you. It's gonna sniff you up and down. And if you're infected, well, you're not allowed to write into the show, okay? But if you aren't, Justin, can you let them know how they can reach us outside of their QZ?
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Like, dude, because we're not letting people write in. They can't even interact with us. We've turned off our radios, right? If they want to write in, we got to make sure they're okay. Like, they're not.
Now, this podcast is really just for you and I. So let's
we're the only ones that listen to it. We record it and then listen back to it, and that's it. That's actually truly what happens. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies and TV shows and games, including our recent Marvel Phase 1 to 4 recap episode, where we discussed our thoughts on the MCU so far and where we hope to see it go next, as well as our spoiler-free review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Plus, we also have some interviews out right now with the cast and crew of the movie. Justin sat down with Catherine Newton, who plays Cassie in the film, and I had a lovely chat with Peyton Reed, the director of, I guess, what we would call the Ant-Man trilogy. So to check those out, subscribe here, as well as on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And we're also on TikTok. We're doing the TikToks. I'm still trying to get Justin to do a TikTok dance. He hasn't done it yet, but you can check us out on TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. We have some great stuff planned for 2023. More interviews, reviews, convention coverage, Justin doing a TikTok dance. So subscribe here, subscribe there, subscribe everywhere. Like all the things. Keep up with us on social media. And just stick around, because we got some really great stuff coming at you. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say, when you're lost in the darkness,
look for the light.